Good afternoon and welcome to the webinar. This webinar is focusing on updates for the 2017-2018 Deaf and Hard of Hearing data collection spreadsheet. This is not a complete training on the data collection process like last year, but instead just an update on the changes that you will see this year. My name is Nancy Wojtowicz, and I will be taking you through this presentation today. If you attended one of our live webinars, then you may have heard Christina Armfield or myself present this information along with Sherry Vernelson, our section chief, and Jenny Stroop, who is our education consultant for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing in Regions 5 through 8. If you are a newly designated person in your LEA to be one of the leads for the data collection this year and have not yet attended a full training, then please contact Jenny or myself to see how you can have access to a full training on the spreadsheet. This is the agenda for the presentation today. We are going to review updates to the data collection spreadsheet, highlight some of the new columns that were added and the new menu choices that you will see on the drop-down menus, answer questions that were submitted prior to this webinar, and lastly, review the due dates and procedures for this year. Just like last year, there will be pre-populated fields filled out by DPI when you receive your data collection spreadsheet. Please do not add, delete, or attempt to change any of the information in the columns that have been filled out for you. If there is a student on the spreadsheet who you no longer have, please do not delete them. Instead, use the appropriate option from the drop-down menu in the inactive column. That is what the inactive column is for you to document those changes. So again, please do not add or delete students on your spreadsheet. One question that came up was about information being rolled over from your previous spreadsheet. The answer to that is nothing will be rolled over this year. You will need to enter the data on each student again this year, as we want to be sure to collect the most recent information. The first column that we are going to be looking at today is the inactive status column. You will see a new drop-down option that was added, which is transitioned to a 504 plan. Also note that the choice exited from services is now exited from special education services. Just some reminders on this slide. We wanted to remind you that the course of study column is for students in grades 9 and above, or students on the extended content standards. Also, the language used column is going to be the primary language used by the student that you have identified on their communication plan worksheet, which is part of the IEP. Next, we have a new column which is titled Communication Access Support Personnel. This is where you are going to indicate whether or not the student uses an educational sign language interpreter, cued language transliterator, spoken language facilitator, or CART provider. Please choose Not Applicable if your student does not have one of these support personnel. Choose Other if there is something that you want to type in for this column that is not a choice in the drop-down menu. This year, hearing technology has been split into two columns, one for the right ear and one for the left ear, so that you can document them separately. You will have 7 choices per ear as seen in the slide here. We have had a few questions such as, my student has a CI but refuses to wear it. Therefore, should I mark it? The answer to that is yes. Please indicate the hearing technology that your student has for each ear. If there are circumstances, such as it being broken or not worn, you will be able to indicate that in the notes section at the end of the spreadsheet. This is another new column this year titled Hearing Assistive Technology. Please choose the appropriate option from the drop-down menu: Soundfields FM system, ear level FM system, or if your student uses a Rogers system. Please note that there is the option of combination if that is appropriate for your student. Also, just a quick note about the audiogram column. Please use the most current audiogram that you have on file. We do know that a lot of LEAs have realized that they need to be proactive in keeping up with and requesting current audiograms. So if that was a goal that you identified for your LEA at our regional meetings this fall, great. Next, we are going to talk about the hearing threshold columns. This section has expanded this year. There are now new frequency columns for both the right ear and left ear for 250 Hz, 6,000 Hz, and 8,000 Hz. So this is a change from last year. You will also notice that you have a drop-down menu in each of these columns, so you will be choosing the decibel level instead of typing it in. There are also some other choices in this drop-down menu that we are going to talk about on the next slide. Just a reminder that you're going to be recording the unaided thresholds at each frequency. If you are reporting on a CI student and you do not have the unaided thresholds, choose No Unaided Thresholds due to CI. If the student was not tested at a particular frequency, then you will choose Did Not Test at this frequency. And lastly, there's an option to choose No Response. You will choose that if the audiogram reports a no response threshold as indicated by one of the symbols you see here. And the choice on the database this year will be no response at this frequency. If you need additional support with reading audiograms, follow the link you see at the bottom of this slide to access the complete document. The vocabulary and language columns are what we are going to be discussing next. There really are not many new changes to these columns this year besides some updated testing options in the drop-down menus. Please remember that these columns are for formal tests only. If you are not sure if an assessment is formal or informal, please ask your speech-language pathologist or school psychologist. As an example, we had several people type in the Bloom and Leahy chart. That chart is not a formal assessment tool. Rather, it is an informal tool that guides language development. If your formal test is not listed, please choose Other and type it in the other column that corresponds to that assessment. You can choose Did Not Test as a placeholder. Lastly, if your student scored within normal limits on previous testing, please enter that past data. We know that you may not be formally assessing vocabulary and language on an annual basis if they score within normal limits and do not have language or vocabulary goals on the IEP. And because we have a section for the date, we will know that it is past testing. So rather than you leaving it blank because they are within normal limits, we want you to enter their data in the appropriate fields. In the Informal Language Tool column, please choose from the drop-down menu. If your informal tool is not listed, please choose Other and type it in the Other Informal Language Tool column. Again, if you are not sure if something is formal or informal, please ask your speech therapist or school psychologist. A new option in the drop-down this year is the SLIPI, which is the Sign Language Proficiency Interview. Lastly, just a reminder, please do not type in the names of any formal assessments in the other column. Again, this is for informal tools only. In the nonverbal IQ column, please choose the assessment used from the drop-down menu. If you do not have this information because the student was not tested, then please choose Did Not Test. Just like all of the other columns, if you have assessment data and the test is not listed, please choose Other and type it in the name of the assessment in the Other column. We have had a lot of questions about the nonverbal IQ scores since it is not a required component for hearing impaired or deaf eligibility. However, it is important information to have when considering the whole child. So we encourage you to have discussions with your IEP teams about obtaining this information when your students are due for a reevaluation. The required testing is what is minimally required for eligibility, and at any time the IEP team can consider any additional testing to gain information on the student's progress and guide your IEP in terms of service delivery, goals, and accommodations. Another change this year is what is being asked for in the K3 reading assessment data. This year, we want all LEAs to report their spring reading assessment data, not the fall. You do not have the choice to choose this year like you did last year. So just be aware, even if you were told to be consistent with what you entered, this has been changed. We want the spring assessment data for all students so that we are looking at consistent data across all LEAs. At the very end of the spreadsheet is a new column titled Other Comments. As I said earlier, please use this column to document any pertinent information about your students, such as going out for an extended amount of time, or with any of their equipment being broken. This column is for anything that you wish to know that will be helpful to your LEA when you are reviewing your data. Therefore, it is not required. Here we would just like to mention some important points to remember. The data collection is for hearing impaired and deaf primary students only, just like last year, so nothing has changed. Again, please do not write in your entire caseload. We encourage you to keep data on all of your students, so if you choose to do that, then please keep that data for your personal use. We only want you to send in the spreadsheet with the data on the students who were on it when it was sent to you. Also, we know that you may have some fields that are blank because they do not pertain to your student, and that is okay. For example, a high school student would not have the K3 reading assessment fields filled out. They would be left as blank, and that makes sense. However, please remember that the goal is to obtain all of the data that you can on each student in order to have all pertinent fields complete on your spreadsheet. Again, so that your LEA can begin to make data-based decisions for improving student outcomes. If you attended our fall regional meetings, you reviewed your data, set goals, and created an action plan on how to obtain data that was missing from your spreadsheet last year so that this year's is more complete. Please keep those action plans in mind this year as you start the data collection process. We have had some questions about progress monitoring, and our recommendation is that you please follow your LEA guidelines regarding progress monitoring. Spreadsheets will be sent via encrypted email this year, so be looking for those in December and January. The spreadsheet will only be sent to the person identified by your EC director as the lead for your LEA, and we will be confirming that with them before we send it out. Your password this year will not be your LEA code, so you will be notified of the password either by phone call or a separate email. Please do not change the password to your Excel document spreadsheet. The due date for the spreadsheet submission is Friday, July 13th, 2018. However, you are welcome to submit your spreadsheet to your consultant as soon as you have entered your spring reading assessment data and completed all other fields. You do not have to wait until your last day of school before summer vacation to submit your spreadsheet. Here are answers to some of the questions you submitted through the Google document that was given out at our fall regional meetings. I already answered the first one, that yes, please do not wait until the last day of school. You can turn in your spreadsheet early after the spring reading data and all other information is complete. How is the state currently using last year's data collection? We are using last year's data to help LEAs develop strategic plans for their deaf and hard of hearing programs to improve literacy rates for students who are deaf and hard of hearing. We are also using the data to identify professional development needs throughout the state. Is there a way to make the spreadsheet easier to view? We suggest familiarizing yourself using Excel. You can certainly copy and paste the information into another format for your own use, but we need the file in its original Excel spreadsheet when you submit it to DPI. How do I get a printer-friendly version? Again, familiarize yourself with using Excel. You may also want to copy and paste the information you wish to print into another format. Will we be expected in the future to collect this data on all students being served? Right now, the data collection is only for students identified as hearing impaired or deaf as their primary disability category. If you have additional questions about this year's data collection, please do not hesitate to contact your regional consultant for the deaf and hard of hearing. Here are your regional contacts for this data collection. Myself, Nancy Wojtowicz, for regions 1 through 4, and you can reach me at 919-807-3985, or Jenny Stroop for regions 5 through 8 at 864-809-3412. For assistance from the Sensory Support and Assistive Technology section in general, all of our contact information is listed on this slide. You can also find this information on our EC Division's website. Thank you for joining me today for the webinar.